Hey, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jay Synergy's home of the safe and successful athlete. We are here with Riahanah Ali, our very first guest interview on the Blue Jay Synergy's channel here on YouTube. And I am so excited to announce and have her here with us. She holds a special place in my heart, being one of my former athletes and kind of my own child. So I'm super excited that she's here. To go along with the theme of what Blue Jay Synergies is, we are going to be covering everything about injury prevention, from physical to the mental health and well-being. So sorry, I have a fly flying around. So let me just introduce Riahanah Ali is a graduate of Rutgers University. She is a 4-year gymnast, multiple accolades across the Big Ten for her time at Rutgers University. And she is a certified psychologist out of her home state of Michigan. So thank you so much, Ray, for being here. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So, obviously you've gone through your 2 years, 3 years, 2 years graduated, almost three, from Rutgers University as a high level, elite level gymnast. And let's just touch base. I know that your journey started early. You started gymnastics probably before you can walk. So why don't you just dive in and give us a little bit about your journey, how you got into athletics and how it led you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I started when I was 5, actually. I started a little late for gymnastics. It was at a birthday party of my close friends and my cousins. And from there, it just kind of took off. It progressed really, really fast. By the time I was in high school, I was a level 10 gymnast and being recruited by colleges. The now head coach at Rutgers, Umi, actually recruited me in my process, and it was amazing to come full circle and have her be my coach through my senior year. So that was really nice. But through gymnastics, there's obviously, physical and mental difficulties that come with it. So I had my first real injury when I was 14. I fractured my navicular, and it was quite the experience because it wasn't necessarily something that you see often in gymnastics. Usually it's like big ACL, Achilles, shoulders, things like that. And so it was kind of brushed off until I was at a breaking point. And so I got the help that I needed there, but there were no trainers in JL gymnastics. You don't have, the mental help that you need. It's usually just your parents and your doctor, whoever you have, and then your coaches. And so with that never fully healed. So I continued to go through gymnastics with this injury that I had going on and well into college. And so when I got into college, I had an interesting time. It was a lot of ups and downs, but more ups than downs. But injuries were very consistent for me, and it was something that I often always worked through. I always had you there to help me on my good and bad days. So I'm always appreciative to you for that. But then my junior year, I re-injured my ankle, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through because I was so close to being done and I didn't know if my career was going to be over or not. And so definitely having you around to just kind of refocus myself, my mind, my body, and my motivation has been really, really helpful. And after college was over, it was found out that my bone was actually dying. And so I had to have a major surgery after gymnastics, and continuing to have you there to help me mentally and through gymnastics and, with all the trainings and making sure that I was in training room every single day, after practice, before practice, during meet weekends. I'm forever grateful to you and Rutgers Gymnastics for allowing me to be a part of their program.
Wow. So you had quite the process, quite the journey. And that's early. It's funny that you mentioned you started at 5 years old and you said that was late for gymnastics. So, that's funny because one thing that we talk about so much with sports is making sure that we're not specializing too much at an early age and that kids are continuing to cross train. Did you do any other sports to help take the pressure off, or were you just gymnastics focused from 5 years old?
So I was a dancer until I was like 6. And then in middle school, I ran track. My mother ran track for University of Michigan, and I've always loved to run. So I ran track all through middle school. And then in high school, when gymnastics started to get really serious and college recruiting came in, I stopped running track.
Okay, so that's great that I know your mom is, into every sport possible, but I know she runs deep in track and field. So
Yes.
that's amazing. Um, so with the navicular injury, you mentioned that it was kind of brushed under the rug, right? Because like you said, it's so common to see Achilles fracture or Achilles ruptures and ACL tears and muscular strains, right, within gymnastics. But seeing something like a navicular fracture, I mean, that's rare in any sport, but especially in gymnastics. How did you feel? I mean, I know in working with you, so just to revamp for those of you who don't know, I knew Ray for her entire college career, but during her final year, her senior year in gymnastics, I actually switched sports, and so I was her primary athletic trainer for her senior year, which is quite funny because she begged me every single day of her college career to come be gymnastics and be her personal athletic trainer, and she finally got that in her senior year. So we had a bond for all 4 years, but it came full circle her senior year. But how did you get over that? Because now with you being a psychologist, obviously there's a part of you that definitely has a sweet spot or a soft spot in their heart for the mental aspect of the game. And we both know that gymnastics, despite injury, is a heavily mental related, the mentality is heavy in gymnastics. So how did you handle that when it was just kind of being swept under the rug? Did you like cry it out? Were you telling people that it hurt and you were being ignored, or did you just suck it up and go? Like, how did you handle that injury at such a young age?
It was a big mix of all of that. I probably cried every day just because I was in so much pain all the time. I was walking in school and I was tripping because I couldn't walk on my foot. I was late to classes and getting in trouble for that because I couldn't walk. And then when I would go to practice, I would just kind of suck it up and do my best every day. There was a point in time when I was just telling people and nobody was believing me. And it came to a point where I was doing a skill and I landed on my face. And, I'm not a gymnast that lands on her face too much.
No.
And that's when people finally believed me of like, oh, this girl might actually be hurt. And so I got the help that I needed, and they found the navicular fracture. And that was so relieving to me because I was going through a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression, actually, of like, I feel so alone in this. And I would have a lot of anxiety going to practice, coming home, going to school because I didn't know if I was going to fall again. And that's embarrassing.
Yes.
So it was a lot of everything. And then once I finally got the diagnosis and I was in the boot, and, that sucks in itself, but it was relieving to me. But then like oh my gosh, I have to go to physical therapy and then I have to get all of my skills back, and that just led to a whole nother round of anxiety. But I did have, my parents are great. They talked to me through a lot of it and just kind of continued to instill the fact that this is something that I've worked really hard for and I can continue to do, and I will continue to do and do it well. So very thankful to them from when I was 14, and then you from the day one of Rutgers until my last day.
Yes, we had a lot of one-on-ones. So, I mean, it's such an eye opener, right? Because so many young athletes in general go through exactly what you explained. So I think that's important. I mean, with everything, I'm trying to do with Blue Jay Synergies, it's bringing just that availability to young athletes like you, so that you have access to a platform and virtually, to somebody who can listen and just, give you suggestions on where you can turn for support and for help. But obviously without the background and the support that you had from your parents, a lot of people don't have parents who have an athletic background like your mother did. So they don't understand what you're going through. What would you suggest to them, or how do you feel like they could be supported virtually through something like we're doing here?
Well, they definitely need to be at Blue Jay Synergies because there really isn't anything out there like this right now. They have a lot of the mental aspect of it through therapy and things like that, but sometimes that's not accessible or cost effective to a lot of people right now or ever, which is a problem in the mental health area right now that we're working on. But something like this is absolutely amazing. I wish I had someone to talk to, relate to me, understand what I was going through, and be able to give that kind of mental advice and physical advice. And I wish I had a trainer when I was 14 to do day in and day out rehab with me and make sure that I was getting the care that I needed.
I think that that's so important, having that background. And that's exactly the void that I'm trying to fulfill here. I see so many athletes, or I saw when I was still working at the university, so many athletes like you that reached college already just riddled with injuries, right? And not for nothing, most athletes, if they didn't have just the heart and the grit and the mentality that you did, your injury would have ended their career. They would have never made it to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we want to step in and just be that platform and be that service and be that informational portal to athletes like you were, and to parents, not like your parents were, because your parents, I know your mom, she'll knock down a doctor's door and fight like heck to get you what you need, right? But needs access to all of that and advice on where to go, and information of, okay, I don't think they're getting what they need here. What can I do for them at home? How can I better serve them? And that's what I'm trying to do here, because so many youth athletes and parents and even youth coaches, even these gym owners, they just don't have access to an athletic trainer or to somebody in sports medicine. Speaking to youth athletics and having access to an athletic trainer, for these youth athletes and even these coaches and gym owners, being a youth gymnastics coach yourself, I know that you did that for a few years. What do you see that these young athletes and sports parents need? What are you seeing that's missing, that can be where that void could be filled to help them?
Yeah. And there's a lot of parents that I've seen that are very, very supportive of injuries and their children and their mental health, which has been really nice to see. But there's also that question of, well, what does my kid need to be successful in the sport, because they have so many injuries at this point? And just making sure that, and sometimes we don't know because there's nothing out there, right? And now you're out there to help them bridge that gap, really get the support for their child mentally and physically and essentially emotionally after that. Because from a psychology standpoint, that's what happens. It's, your thoughts really interact with your behaviors, which interacts with your emotions. And I see a lot of that in my gymnast. And as a coach, it's really nice to see that there's your platform out there who can be reached out to and help support further what we're doing inside the gym and what their parents are doing as well.
Oh, that's awesome. And just kind of bringing it full circle, now you're a psychologist yourself. So I know you're not working specifically with athletes or within sports psychology. I know you're working more in, general psychology, but how has your experience and everything that you've done kind of brought you to the point that you're at now?
Absolutely. I think really with the mental aspect of being an athlete, we really kind of see the full picture of what life is like as a person and as an athlete. So I can really resonate with people who are not athletes, and their distress, their anxiety, their depression, and things that they go through in a day-to-day life. But I can also resonate with athletes. I see some athletes sometimes, but injuries are so traumatic because you spend the most time with yourself, and you know your body best, and you know your mind best, you know your thoughts, you know what hurts, you know where it hurts. And being able to identify those and have the validation, the support, and the understanding, not only from parents but from teachers, coaches, and Blue Jay Synergies, it would be really validating to kids as a whole, because right now we're missing a lot of that. There's a lot of pieces missing from people because we don't understand the language or how to explain what we're feeling, and two, we don't necessarily know what to do after because, like I said, there is no real access to mental health care or trainers and athletic trainers if you're at a private gym, if you're not at like a high school or something like that. So from a psychology standpoint, I really think this is awesome because people need support, especially when they're injured mentally or physically.
In listening to your story, obviously you've had to overcome, and you've gone through a lot, the good, the bad, the challenging, and all of the things in between to not only just become a college athlete, but then get through being a college athlete. So with that being said, like what bit of advice would you have for athletes who have, regardless of the sport, who have ambition to become a college athlete? Do you have one or two bits of advice? I'm sure you have a ton, but one or two bits of advice for them to maintain and preserve and get through mentally and physically to reach that point?
One thing I would always say is keep your goals in mind and what your life's going to look like on the other end of getting to your goals. Achieving goals is really one of the best parts about life, and making sure that you are fulfilling your own dream and chasing your own dreams, because every choice you make is going to either help or hurt that. And then also identify your supports. Who are the people that truly support you? Is it your parents? Is it your teachers? Is it your coaches? And really rely on them during the bad days, because they are going to come. And it's never a smooth ride, but the ride is always, always, always worth it. You get to meet great people, and the next day will always be better if you choose it to be.
Well, I think that is great advice, Ray. I mean, as always, one thing that you have always rang true to be is, aside from just a strong competitor, has been a leader and a mentor. I mean, you've been that for everybody, from your own teammates to your youth athletes, and now as a psychologist to me. I mean, I know I was giving back to you, but you were giving to me all of that time as your athletic trainer, and now as a pseudo sister to these ones. What's wrong? You're always giving your best and trying to help others. So I thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me and to chat about everything that you've been through. I know we could probably talk for another 2 hours on just everything, but thank you so much. I appreciate you. Blue Jay Synergies and all of our following appreciate you. And I know that you will be back soon. And I think that is a sign that the interview is over, because this one is done. So thank you, everybody, and good night.